My name is Ken Johnson. I'm a physical therapist here at Body One Physical Therapy, and today we wanted to talk about performance ability testing. This is a program that we developed because we noticed an increase in injuries, in particular with athletes because of the nature of prolonged training all year round, and also in the general population as they're getting more and more involved in activities and athletics. If they are not prepared to do that properly, there is an injury risk just because of new activities that their bodies aren't ready to do. So the functional movement screen is part of our performance ability testing, and what I'm going to have Matt do today is demonstrate one of the testing moves that we do in that testing procedure. So I'm going to have him do a deep overhead squat. Go ahead and put the bar on top of your head. We're going to adjust hand position, and then I'm going to have him do an overhead press with the bar, and I'm going to have him go into a deep squat as far down as you can. As he goes into that position, I'm going to watch shoulder position, back position, hips and knees, and just kind of evaluate the quality of that movement, and that is what will determine how we grade that movement for the testing. So I'm going to have Matt demonstrate a couple poor movement patterns that could, or at least make us concerned for injury. The first one I'll have him demonstrate is called valgus collapse, and that is where his knees are going to kind of come together. Instead of keeping his knees and hips in alignment, the knees kind of fall in toward one another. That demonstrates some poor hip stability or motor control problems, and that can certainly lead to some other knee problems. If he cannot maintain an upright spine when he goes into a deep squat and he flexes forward, again, that could be a motor control issue, it could be a flexibility issue, both of which can lead to problems in the lower extremities. So the hurdle step is another one of the tests that we will do to evaluate movement and the way he moves in a stepping over process. So I'm going to have him step into the board, just touching barely, and go ahead and put the bar over your shoulders. So this gives us a reference point to where we can watch and see if he does any rocking from side to side, or if he doesn't have good stability through his trunk when he makes this step. Again, we're going to be watching leg position, stance leg position, as well as movement on the other leg, and then also evaluating kind of trunk movement when he does this step. So go ahead and step over with the right, touch the heel, and come back. So we are going to watch the moving leg, if he can keep knee and hip in alignment as he steps over, and then also watching stance leg to evaluate the stability when he steps over. And again, watching the bar to see if he does any lateral shifting to make that movement with the stepping leg. So a couple improper movement patterns that we're evaluating in the moving leg. Sometimes they will do a lot of rotation to help get that leg over. That is indicative of some flexibility problems or motor control problems that need to be evaluated. The other thing that we will watch very closely is the ability to stabilize in this hip and make sure he doesn't drop that hip, which oftentimes is picked up in the way the bar moves on top of his shoulders, because it shows a lot of lateral leaning and movement. So those are some movement patterns that we really want to evaluate further and make sure aren't going to be a problem for the way he performs. So the Y-balance test is another one of the components of our performance ability testing, and this is a test that evaluates static and dynamic balance and stability while they're standing on one foot. What we're looking at is the ability of the athlete to stand on one foot while they're moving the other foot. So I'm going to have Matt demonstrate this. He'll stand on the platform. He's going to push this out with one foot while he balances on the other and coming back to the starting position. The next component, he will go in that direction. So he's going to push that out while balancing, coming back to the starting position. And then the third movement is going to be in this direction. Again, just balancing, maintaining stability, coming back to the starting position. So in the Y-balance test, what we're looking at is his ability to push this out a certain distance. One of the big components of this is the difference from one side to the other. So if there is a large difference from the right side to the left side, that shows that there is some injury risk because of the inability of both sides to function equally. We will compare that with all three positions with both feet, and that helps us to identify where there may be some injury risk or injury potential that we can hopefully impact with some of our interventions. So here's an example of the performance ability testing report that each athlete or individual that goes through this testing would receive. The first page is just kind of a summary, and it actually goes through and explains kind of what was done with the testing. It does show their deficit or injury risk potential, which is a big piece of what this program is designed to assess. The graph at the bottom of this page shows where the person rates with the FMS and the Y balance compared to their peers. So compared to a similar age group and or the sport that they participate in. The second page is more comprehensive in the sense that it shows the actual scores and how they rate compared with right versus left, and whether that is below passing or optimal standards. The next page goes through the functional movement testing, and it does a very similar assessment. It shows the raw scores, the final scores, and then whether they passed, were below standard, or optimal. So with the example we had with Matt earlier, the deep squat and the hurdle step were the two tests that we demonstrated. The raw score would go in the raw score column, and then the final score is how the two compare when you're looking at right versus left. If he was at a 2 level, that's a passing score. The scoring system is 0 to 3. A 0 means that there is pain, and that really is something that needs to be further assessed by a medical professional, either a physical therapist or a physician. 1 score is really an inability to perform the test very well. A 2 is a passing score, and a 3 is what we call optimal. So that is as good as you can hope to do, and that is really what we're striving for when we're looking at each of these different scores. So the example that we have here shows where there are some deficits that this athlete has. One of the deficits is in the inline lunge, as well as the active straight leg raise, and with their Y balance score. So when we plug all of this information into the computer system, it gives us an indication of where this person rates with their injury risk and where those deficits are. So one of the strengths of the program is that since we have that information, we are now able to specifically identify exercises that can address those deficits and use those to help this person to avoid their injury, or at least lower their injury potential when they're participating in their athletic activities.